right, good evening, folks. If you could kind of squeeze in just a little bit, we got lots of people that don't have a place to sit, so if there's room, if you can kind of squeeze in a little bit, if we can make some more room, that would be great. All right, and we're going to ask if you are on the gymnasium floor, if you are behind the cameras, if it's possible for you to sit down, because there's people that are behind you that just simply can't see. All right, fantastic. Hey, good evening. My name is Kobe Johns, and I'm one of the public information officers on the Thomas Fire. And right now I'd like to bring up the Mayor of Carpinteria and Supervisor Williams as well.
Good evening, Carpinteria. Thank you all for being here. Before we get started, I would like to thank all of our firefighters, sheriffs, and all the personnel, city and county staff. They've done a great job protecting our town and our valley. Now I'm going to turn it over to Das Williams.
Well, it's amazing to see so many neighbors and constituents. I'm just sorry it's under these circumstances. Many of you have questions. We're expecting many of those questions to be answered tonight, including some evacuation sites. And I just want to also say that if it ever helps and you don't get your questions asked, I'm going to do a dangerous thing and just give out my cell phone. It's an easy one to remember, 637-7711, 637-7711. Try to text it, and if you don't get a place to stay, don't hesitate to be one of those people that text me to ask, and I'll try to be available till about 11 o'clock tonight to try to help people if they don't have any place to go. Okay? It's an honor representing you, and I want to turn it over to the Public Information Officer, Captain from Fresno Fire. We really welcome him here to town. Mr. Johns? Thank you.
So you saw my patch. It says Fresno City Fire, and you're probably wondering, what's a guy from Fresno doing here? And it's really just, it's because this is what we do. This is why we sign up. It's to come and help you. And it doesn't matter where the patch is from. For the next several days, maybe longer, we're all your fire department. And so there's people from all over. These firefighters have been working all summer long and doing everything we can to help people up and down the state. And it's your turn. And you guys have been fantastic. And what we're going to do tonight is just give you some information now about the fire. So if you could just bear with us a little bit. Right now I'm going to introduce Deputy Chief Dave Russell. He's from Incident Management Team 4 with CAL FIRE. He's going to speak to you a little bit about the fire behavior that happened today and what we can expect this evening on the Ventura County side of things. I'm also going to invite up Deputy Chief Matt Ferris from Santa Barbara County Fire, and he'll be able to speak about the fire activity today on the Santa Barbara County side of things.
Good evening. My name is Dave Russell. I gotta watch this. My name is Dave Russell, and I serve as the Deputy Incident Commander on CAL FIRE IMT 4. First off, I'll give you some information about the fire itself. Currently, it's 115,000 acres, 5% contained. We currently have 2,646 personnel assigned, and we're continuing to receive additional personnel from out of state. We've requested resources from out of state due to the other fires happening in the Southern California region. Currently, within the city of Ventura City, there was 85 structures that were damaged and 427 that were destroyed. In the county of Ventura, due to our collections, where we're at right now with our damage inspections, we're up to 12 structures destroyed, and we have our damage assessment teams out still looking in the areas the fire has progressed. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll kind of touch on the fire activity within the last 24 hours that has affected this area in the Santa Barbara County area and just on the north end of Ventura, and I'll work my way around the fire. At about 1 o'clock in the morning yesterday, the fire made a significant run on the northwestern flank, and it ran towards Highway 101 at about 1 in the morning. It might have been maybe midnight. But about a 3 to 4 mile fire front hit Highway 101 about the same time in the La Conchita area, which we were doing structure defense within La Conchita, and we also were forced to shut down Highway 101. That was the significant activity early morning hours. Once the fire bumped Highway 101, due to the erratic winds, the fire started moving to the northwest with the terrain, and it actually moderated before it got to Highway 101 and 150, which we were very happy that the wind moderated. So going back around the fire towards the city of Ventura, we've been very successful in our actions there. We're actually looking at some potential repopulation of the city of Ventura tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. Moving around to the Highway 126 towards Santa Paula and Fillmore. Santa Paula, we've been very successful. Currently, right now, there is additional evacuations around Fillmore. We have been constructing line to the north towards Cesar Peak, and some of the fire activity is moderated, but we still have some very active fire up in the forest there. Also last night, the fire, as I'm working my way around, made a significant run at the city of Ojai. We were successful in the northwestern push towards the east side of Ojai, and then the fire burned around Ojai and jumped Highway 33, and that's where we're at right now. And it skirted around the town and backed into the town early morning hours this morning. With that, I'm going to introduce Fire Chief of Santa Barbara County, Eric Peterson, and they will discuss the fire operations in Santa Barbara County. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. We are very glad you're here. We want to answer your questions. We want to make sure you walk out of here with knowledge of what's happening. One of the really encouraging things about the way this fire is being run is how much they have utilized local knowledge. I was born and raised in this town in Santa Barbara. I've been here my whole life, and many of the people that are working on this fire have worked together for years and years and years, whether they work for the federal government, state, or local government. These are people that have known each other for a long time. They're not just people from out of town, so they know the dirt, they know the terrain, they know what's going on around here. I'm going to introduce our operations chief on this fire, Matt Ferris, who has lived in Solvang or in Santa Barbara County for 40 years. He's not quite a native, but he's pretty close, and he's going to give you a quick operational briefing of where we are with this fire. Thanks for being here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. It's a large crowd, that's for sure. What I'm here is a contingency group for Santa Barbara County. The fire is still contained with the objective lines that the incident has created at the beginning. So what we're here, in case it gets past that, sorry, I'll speak up, get a little closer. Try not to push this in here. So it's still holding at the 150 area, and we're here to put in a contingency line that goes above Carpinteria, and we're going to come up the Gubernador Canyon and move over to the Sutter Ridge and go up Sutter Ridge to East Camino Cielo and take it all the way out to Divide Peak and then move that out to Murrieta Peak. The fire is still not into Santa Barbara County as of right now. It's moving on the north side of Divide Peak in Ventura County and both sides of Murrieta Peak around that area, if you're familiar with that. That's an update of what we're doing. We also have a structured group that will be implemented if the fire comes down below the Edison lines, and that will be run by the CARP battalion chief locally. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brendan Ripley, and I'm a fire behavior analyst. And you may be asking yourself, what is a fire behavior analyst? Well, basically, I evaluate the fire environment, which is comprised of the vegetation or fuel that is out there, the topographical features, and then measure that with what is the most important component and has driven this fire is weather. Looking at fuels. One of the ways in which we evaluate that is we look at fire history. Of the 20 largest fires here in California, 4 of them have been in this surrounding area. The Zaca, the Wheeler Fire, the 1932 Matilahoff Fire, and the 4th one, the Day Fire. We look at that because we look at how the fires have spread through the area and around the vegetation in this community and the other communities that they're affected. The vegetation right now is at a state of what we call a seasonal drought. It's at its driest point. The live fuel moistures that we measure and look at out there are done on a double monthly basis, twice a month. Currently, the critical value for live fuel moisture is 60%. It is ranging at 56% in the fuel beds in and around Ventura County and Carpinteria, making and promoting the active fire behavior that we've seen thus far. The other aspect is the topographical features. Because of the complex terrain, it makes accessibility very difficult for firefighters to get in and access the vegetation and the terrain. And really, it doesn't provide a lot of footholds in which we can provide stopping points for the fire as it moves across the landscape. And finally, it's the weather. The weather is the driving force behind fire behavior. The firefighters have experienced the 4th day of red flag fire conditions. Those are coupled with very dry humidity, strong winds, and just a fire environment that is critically set to promote very, very active fire behavior. And we're looking for 3 more days. They've extended that red flag warning out to 8 o'clock on Sunday evening, and I hope that that's it. Every day it first started at Thursday, it then moved to Friday, and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping that the weather will cooperate in providing basically an opportunity for firefighters to get an upper hand on this fire. The wind component is our greatest nemesis. It is the greatest challenge that we have. When you have a fire that will throw spot fires, the wind will carry embers up to a mile out in front of the main body of the fire. It makes challenges for the firefighters very difficult, coupled with the very dry conditions that we have out there. So we do have an uphill battle over the next couple days. If the weather changes, if it helps to support those operations, we're hoping to get the upper hand and get control of this fire.
Hello, I'm Dr. Polly Baldwin. I'm the Medical Director for the Public Health Department, and I've been asked to update you on air quality. At this point in time, the rating for the air quality in Carpinteria is hazardous. Hazardous is the worst classification that air quality has. What that means to you all is that you should stay indoors if possible. If you have to go outdoors for any extended period of time, it's recommended that you wear a mask. We are distributing masks at the Albertsons here in Carpinteria, and if you have any questions, I'll be available in the back for a little while if you need to come by and ask me anything. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bill Dutton with the American Red Cross, and I'm here to tell you about shelters that are available for you should you need to evacuate. We certainly hope you will not have to, but if you do, they are available. We currently have 3 shelters open in Ventura County, and they are at Nordhoff High School, or Oxnard Community College, and also at the Ventura Fairgrounds. In Santa Barbara County, there's currently a shelter open at UCSB, and we can have a capacity up to 470 people into that facility. We have plenty of room in that facility alone, plus we have 4 other locations available in Santa Barbara County to if the need arises. So I will be here after this meeting is over. If anyone has any questions, particularly dealing with shelters, I will be here. Thank you.
Good evening, Carpinterians. I'm Sheriff Bill Brown from Santa Barbara County, and you can certainly see why this community has as much spirit as it does with the people who are here tonight. We thank you for being here, and we want to give you some information tonight and assure you that everything is being done to address the safety concerns that you have. I'm here to talk to you about some of the evacuation areas, and in particular, we have, as of about 6 o'clock this evening, created 2 more mandatory evacuation zones. This map to my right here shows the Carpinteria front country. The city is down here at the bottom, and then on the top we have these various colored zones which go from left to right. We have made what we call Carp Zone 6 and 5 mandatory evacuation areas. These are probably the least populated zones in the Carp area, but they are in the path that the fire would likely come down if it were to come down from where its current position is up near Divide Peak. Now you can't see on this map, but there is a salient, a western finger that comes out. There is a western salient above what would be above this map where the fire is now. And if it were to proceed down to Carpinteria, it would come down, and it's an area of about 7 miles. And the reason that we've made these 2 areas mandatory evacuation areas is because last night the fire went 9 miles in 12 hours. And if the wind conditions are right, if the conditions are right, this fire could move very rapidly. And what we don't want to be stuck with is a situation where in the middle of the night we have a rapidly spreading fire coming down into this populated area and an inability to get people who are in the more remote parts of this area out. If you live in any of these other areas, and by the way, the boundaries of this mandatory evacuation area would be Highway 150 to your right as you view this, Casitas Pass to your left, and 192 and everything above it would be what that evacuation area is. We also have a very small, right down here in this corner in the Rincon area, very small additional area that is mandatory evacuation. Everything else on this map is a warning area, a voluntary evacuation area. And what we're telling you is that you should be, if you live in that area, basically if you live anywhere where I assume everybody in this room lives, you should be prepared to leave your home at a moment's notice. You should have your irreplaceable documents, your jewelry, your family heirlooms, anything that can't be replaced should be packed up and ready to go. Your vehicle should be gassed up and ready to go. And you should have a plan on where you're going to go, whether that's a friend or a relative or to a hotel or whatnot in the area. But you need to be thinking about that now, not an hour or two before the fire potentially could be upon you. And the reason that we're more concerned about this than we may have been in the past is because of the fire activity that we've seen across the state, where these fires develop and burn very rapidly into heavily populated areas. And a lot of the tragic consequences of the Sonoma fire were as a result of the time that it occurred in the middle of the night and the inability to get people notified and to get them out of those areas. So I will be here, my staff will be here afterwards. If you have any specific questions, you can come up and look at this map. We'd be happy to discuss any of those issues with you. If you have livestock, if you have equine needs, we have Earl Warren Fairgrounds is set up for large animals. The Humane Society is set up for smaller animals. And as mentioned, you've got the Red Cross shelter available to you as well. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Assemblymember Monique Limon, and this is Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. We have both been working very closely with the state. You should know that we've received notice that the governor has declared Santa Barbara County a state of emergency, as have they declared that for Ventura County. What this does for our community is it allows us, it prioritizes the need in the area, but it also allows us to draw on human and also fiscal resources. It's important for us to have this conversation here because we also know that we are receiving a lot of questions and calls from all of you. Please know that the experts in this room are public safety and firefighters. And so the message that we get to you is that which is delivered to us from them. We will continue to coordinate efforts on our behalf at the state level. Hola, mi nombre es Monique Limón, soy asamblista y aquí estoy con la senadora Hannah Jackson. Estamos aquí hoy porque queremos darles información. El mensaje importante hoy es que deben de estar preparados en esta área por si tienen que evacuar. También hay centros de evacuación aquí. Vamos a tener más información sobre cualquier cosa que ustedes tengan preguntas. Tenemos el personal del sheriff, de los bomberos y también de la Cruz Roja.
Thank you all for being here. I know many of us, this is not our first rodeo when it comes to fires. We know how devastating they can be. We know how unpredictable Mother Nature is. She just doesn't share her playbook with us. And I appreciate the fact, I know we all do, that you are here tonight to learn what you can so that we are all as well prepared as we can be. Behind me are some of the most well-trained, experienced people in dealing with fires and these kinds of emergencies. And I can tell you we've been on this since the beginning. Many of us have also spoken with and learned from the folks who just experienced those fires a couple months ago up in Napa, Sonoma, Calistoga. These fires have a lot in common with those fires. These firefighters have learned from the way that fire conducted itself. And probably the most important lesson for you to take home with you, as Sheriff Brown indicated, is to be prepared. It is critically important that we've had a couple days' notice where they didn't necessarily up in Northern California. So pack up the things that are important to you. A couple extra pairs of underwear as well. Some people think that's foolish. Trust me, that's an important element. A toothbrush, some toothpaste. Make sure that your dogs, your cats, you've got cages for them if you're going to bring them with you. Make sure you're ready to go. We have Aware and Prepare. How many people are on that system now? Everybody in this room should be on that system now. It's Aware and Prepare. Go to your cell phone, hit 888-777, then put in your zip code. And you will be on the early alert system so that if it is time for you to go, I remember about a decade ago when we had a fire, I can't remember which one it was, we got notified because a police officer came through our back gate and knocked on our bedroom window. We have moved on since then, and hopefully we will be able to let you know when it is, if it is time to go, and you will be ready to do so. This is so seriously important. Everyone in this room, I think, appreciates this. Make sure that your friends know, your neighbors know. Not everybody wants to go to Doss's house, and in spite of it, I don't think he can put you all up. But there is a facility now out at UCSB. Monique and I have been to the facility down at the fairgrounds in Ventura, being amazingly well run by the American Red Cross. Food, shelter, clothes, all the things that people would need. There is a place for you to go. And the message we learned from what was going on in Napa and Sonoma is do not stay home. Get out. These fires are incredibly unpredictable. They are incredibly hot. They are incredibly fast-moving. It is really important that everyone here understands that and be prepared to take yourself, your loved ones, the things that are important to you, and leave if that call comes. And with that, I'm going to invite up the Chief Johns to answer. I know everybody has a whole bunch of questions. That's why we're here, to send you home. If there's one other lesson, these people are pros. And if we can tackle Mother Nature, these are the people who can make it happen. So with that, thank you all for being here. We will prevail. Thank you.
right, so that concludes the scripted portion of the evening. We're going to get into the freestyle part. And what we want to do is give you guys an opportunity to ask your questions. Now, here's our pledge to you. We're going to stick around, and we're going to try to answer everybody's questions. But we're going to do this in a formal way for about the next 10 to 15 minutes. So we've got 2 wireless microphones on either side with fire personnel who will find you if you have a question. So here's what I want. I'd like you to raise your hand if you have a question that you'd like to ask in this large group, and we will bring a mic to you. Just keep in mind that everybody's got questions, so try not to take all the time with your question, okay? And we'll do the best we can. So give us a few minutes, and we'll get the microphone to you. All right there, Chris.
Hi, real quick, thank you guys for all your services. 2 yes or no questions real quick. One, can we get that map posted via social media? Because we're getting a lot of confusion from people as to what streets are closed, what areas. And
so the question was, can we get these maps available via either social media or on the internet? And the answer is yes. We are working on that. You can use either through VenturaGetReady.org or through the Santa Barbara County website and also CAL FIRE's website. You'll be able to access some of these maps.
And also all the alerts in Spanish as well?
Yeah, the question was, are the alerts in Spanish as well? And the answer is yes, they are.
Chief, thank you.
All right, right there. Okay.
Chief, thank you for being here. I think it's important that the community of Carpinteria gets some clarification on evacuation, voluntary evacuation, and mandatory evacuation, current and accurate, because there is a lot of confusion.
Okay, as I indicated, essentially there are 3 zones that are what we are calling mandatory evacuation areas right now. And I'll repeat the boundaries of those. Highway 192 is the southern boundary of that area. Casitas Pass Road would be the westernmost part of that boundary, extending up to East Camino Cielo. And then on the east side of 150, from Rincon Hill Road to Highway 101. So to the county line, 192, up Casitas Pass to East Camino Cielo. Those are the mandatory evacuation areas. All the other areas in the coastal region in this area are voluntary. They're warning evacuation areas. We are advising you to prepare to evacuate if a mandatory order comes out. Are there any other questions to that?
So probably the closest fire to Carpinteria is the piece down here in the corner. When you look at the map, if you come up afterwards, yeah, you won't be able to see the map. You'll have to come up after, and we'll be here to point things out to you. But the closest fire to Carpinteria is over here in the northwest portion, basically burning into the corner of Highway 101 and 150. That is the closest piece. We have constructed dozer line from Lake Casitas towards Highway 150. So to try to cut that piece off there and use Highway 150 as our containment line. The fire's backing down. It actually, this evening, before I came, I talked to our operations section chief, and the fire activity had moderated we still have a significant, and Matt's going to speak to this, the significant threat and the amount of fire with open line is what Matt's going to speak to.
So the piece of open line that we have left is up by Marietta Peak, which is right at the county line. You'll have to come up here to look at it, to see it on the map. If you're familiar with Divide Peak, it's on the north side of Divide Peak. So that's what we're talking about with the mandatory evacuations, our contingency lines that we're putting in. We're working with the Forest Service, we're working with CAL FIRE, Ventura agencies, and we're putting in these contingency lines that come off the CLO to keep it from even coming down below into Carpinteria. Hopefully that answered your question about where the fire is.
Is it working the backcountry towards Santa Barbara?
No, it's not that far yet. It's still in Ventura County.
So we're not worried about the backcountry going towards Santa Barbara at this point?
At this point, that's why we're putting in the dozer lines that we are, going from Divide Peak, going north all the way out to the 33 to cut it off from coming this way.
It's not burning behind us right now?
Correct. It is not burning behind us at this point. That's correct. It is still east of where we are right now.
All right, next question.
Yeah, Hobie Smith from Carp. This is for the fire behaviorist. Where does he anticipate the fire will be in 24 hours?
That is a loaded question. So last night what we saw under very, very extreme wind conditions up in the Ojai area, it moved 9 miles. So one of the features that we look at from weather in this standpoint is the northeast winds do not affect this range as much as it does that Ojai area. You're somewhat sheltered for it. You guys have sundowner winds. You have more of an effect from the north wind associated with fires moving from the top of the ridge where it's at down. To answer your question, we're looking at probably half the distance from where it was last night. We still have northeast winds that are running the ridge line. So I would say probably 4 miles to the west along the top of the ridge lines. Last night we experienced some very aggressive fire behavior along the top of the ridge, but as it moved down into the Ojai proper, kind of the same situation here. They do not assimilate those northeast winds, and the fire gently backed down into the community, into the areas that were populated. And the firefighters were able to extinguish and hold or limit the amount of damage in that area. So 4 miles is an estimate across the top of the ridge and lower on the frontal country or the frontal slopes. Okay, that is a fair request. So basically the fire is sitting that direction to us, and it's wanting to move across the ridge line basically towards Santa Barbara. That's the track that it is basically heading towards. Okay. And do you understand where the fire is in relationship to 192? Yes. And we want to keep it that way. But as the sheriff's officer said, the potential is there. The fire history and what the fire has done thus far, and that's why we want you to be ready, to be educated, and to have the knowledge to make sure that you're ready to go.
I'm sorry, what was your question again, ma'am? Okay, well, first of all, let me clarify. Santa Monica Road is actually the extreme western part of another zone that we initially were looking at, but we're not making that a mandatory evacuation area. So Casitas Pass Road is the westernmost part of the evacuation area. It's not Santa Monica Road. And basically, if you can just think, if you are above 192, or if you are to the right, as you're looking on a map, of Casitas Pass, and anywhere between there and the county line, that is the mandatory evacuation area. It's a very sparsely populated area. There's only a few remaining people there. A lot of that area is covered by Kate School, it's covered by Shepherd Mesa, and a lot of those people who are in that area have already evacuated. They're already gone from there because we talked to them earlier today. But we've made it from a warning to a mandatory in that area because, as we mentioned, if that westernmost spur of the fire that's up above this map, if that fire was to change, if the wind conditions were to change that fire and it was to go down towards the coast, that would be the most peril that this area would be in. And the mandatory evacuation area, which is really the extreme, as you're looking at it, the extreme right part of the Carpinteria Valley, that's where the fire would likely come down. So that's why we've evacuated that area, so that we can get fire apparatus up in there quickly if we need to, and obviously people who live in the deep canyon areas can get out, and especially if they have wildlife, or horses and livestock, that they can do that as well.
Next question.
Let me talk to you in person, and we'll answer your question later.
You described to us, sir, you described that areas 5, I'm way over here, that areas 5 and 6 were where you were most concerned. Then you mentioned 3 areas. Would you tell me areas 5, 6,
and 16? There's one little portion that's down below it.
Can you also take the white could you give us, when you're describing to us, could you give us the physical landmarks and names of the streets? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
KYT, would you do that as well?
We will. Well, we have a map that's prepared, and it's on our website, and it's going to go out on social media, and we'll make sure that the media has access to it. But basically, once again, the extreme western part, the left part, if you're looking at it head-on on the map, is Casitas Pass. The bottom of it would be 192, and the far right of it would be the county line, 150.
Okay, that's
kind of any questions on this side.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. It's getting very difficult to hear because there's so much movement. So we're going to stick around. If you have a question, come find either a representative from the sheriff's office or from the fire service, and we will do our very best to answer your question. Okay?
Amber Alert. I have a question, and I wasn't recognized here.
Okay.
You say to evacuate, but there's rumors that if the winds change, the wire will go towards Santa Barbara. So do we go towards Santa Barbara? And how is it going that way on the 101? Ventura.
You can go to Santa Barbara.
I mean, we don't want to have to evacuate, to go that way. Okay, my daughter lives in Oakview, and she had to evacuate. She's at my house, so she had to evacuate. Now we have to evacuate, probably. And we go to Oakview now.
Oakview and Ojai, like just to the...
Oakview.
Right.
It's right before Ojai.
Okay. Yeah. That's still under a voluntary evacuation.
Really?
Yeah.
She called the sheriff's department and told her, yeah, come ahead, come on home.
That's a mandatory evacuation.
I think Oakview, it's either under a mandatory or it's under a voluntary. I'm not sure, but you're not going to be able to go there.
I might just see this pass wrong, but I don't know whether I'm in the area that I'm supposed to be mandatory.
You see the pass road?
I'm near Albertson. I can see this pass.
I don't know where Albertson is.
That's just down the road.
It's right.
It's in town.
It's right at the one. It's at the 101 and Casitas Pass.
So what I would encourage you to do.
But you're on the back side of 192, right. So you're not in the mandatory.
There's an evacuation map that the sheriff's office has produced on the back side of this. That would answer your question. Maybe I'll show you.
How will we be notified when the mandatory evacuation is over?
Through the reverse 911 system.
Well, they knock on our door at 1 a.m. and tell us to get out. So
Well, they're going to do that, but before they do that, they're going to ping your phones.
Okay,
Are you registered with them?
Well, we're already evacuated, but they don't know where we're at. So when it's over, is it going to be...
So the very best thing you can do is to register